Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new School of Data Skillshare. As usual, we'll be exploring an aspect of the data journalism, data analysis that School of Data is known to train journalists, civil society, and citizens about. My name is Cedric Lombio, and I work as a community and communications manager for School of Data. As I said, School of Data is a project and a community of change makers who empowers journalists, civil society organizations, and citizens to make use of data. As part of this work, we produce a series of video Skillshares run by the members of our fellowship program around various tools, methodologies, and aspects of data literacy. They join our growing body of learning material that you can find on schoolofdata.org. Today, our speaker will be Julio from Ecuador, we will start by introducing himself before talking about our main subject, what you have to know before diving into extractive data. Julio, could you start by quickly introducing yourself, and then you're free to start the core of this Skillshare.
Okay, thank you, Cedric. Hello, everybody. My name is Julio Lopez, and I'm one of the School of Data Fellows this year. I'm specialized in the energy industry, and my background is in economics, so I've been working mostly in projects related to the energy and extractive sectors. So this is one of my favorite topics to speak about. So I don't know if we start now. I will share with you the slides of today's presentation. As Cedric mentioned, this will be on things to understand before diving into extractives data. Basically, I will talk about the following topics. First, I will give you an overview of what is exactly extractives industry. Then we will go to a topic of what is importance, why do people even care about this topic? And then we will see what data are we talking about, where we can find it, and finally how people are using this data in different aspects and different activities. So to start, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to what's our target audience today. These Skillshares are mostly for people that are interested in data and open data issues. But today, I think this topic is very relevant for many different audiences, including data journalists, NGOs. There are many NGOs and civil society organizations that work in this area, in extractive industries, that will be interested in having more information on this topic. There are lots of students doing work with extractives data because it's not only related to specific industries, it is also related to other variables like economic variables, environmental variables. So that's really a broad topic that we will see today. And then researchers from think tanks, civil society, academics, universities in general. I think this is a very important topic. And I've seen a lot of work on this area. And finally, the School of Data Fellows. We are 7 fellows or 8 fellows this year, so I hope they can also with this Skillshare, they have an idea of what is going on. I know that in Nigeria and Ghana, for instance, this is a really big topic, so maybe this will be helpful for you all. So moving to the first topic today is on demystifying the extractives industry. So what is exactly extractives industries? We have, well, many people have heard about this before. And these industries are related to the extraction of natural resources. But when we refer to these processes, we are not only talking about on the extraction, on the production. There are lots of activities before this. For instance, that it's not in this Skillshare, so I will talk a bit on this. We we have in this industry different activities before the production of the commodities. For instance, the exploration. We have the companies that explore the resources in the land, and they finally found these resources. So once they are certified as reserves, they can start the production or sell the project to other companies that are most in the activity of extracting these resources. Before that, there are other companies that do exploration in different areas, in different geographical areas, like in many places in the world. So that's basically the first step on doing this. Then, as we can see in the slides, we have the other activities. I will show you later another graph on this. So basically, we are referring to the industries in the oil, in the natural gas, and minerals. So for instance, I wrote here diamonds, coal, and other minerals from the ground that are being extracted. So these are natural resources that are being extracted in order to have other products from these resources. So I also have to clarify that natural resources are relevant also in the energy sector. We are not only talking about the natural resources being used in different industries. Also, in the energy industry is the biggest user of the natural resources, because we in order to have electricity, for instance, we need to have processes for that. So I wrote here an example. We use crude oil, and then we refine the crude oil to obtain diesel. But this diesel can be consumed by let's say trucks, but it can be also used for power plants to produce electricity, which is another form of energy. And the same, natural gas can be also used in order to produce electricity. So those natural resources are related very closely with the energy sector, and that's also why these are very relevant. Here we have what I was talking about before. This is basically an amplified production chain, or we can say the process to obtain the resources. So when we are talking about extractives data, we are not only focusing here in the production chain. We are also talking about of the activities before, all the requirements that are needed in order to start any project, and also after the project started, all the benefits that this project may have, not only for governments or companies, but also for people. So for people that the local groups that may be affected by any of these activities are also part of this chain. So this is a introduction for those that don't know much on this topic. Is that once we have identified a natural resource, all the governments have to go, and all the companies have to go through the requirements in order to continue with this process. So all the licenses and contracts are very relevant, because in here we have a lot of information, not only related with data from the resources that were identified, also the main characteristics of the project, all the revenues that they will collect, and also all the payments that they will do to the governments. I'm talking about the companies. So that's why in this stage we have to identify all of these different information, types of information and data that is available. Then once we move to the production, once a project is approved and has all the requirements approved, the production basically refers to all the different sources that are obtained once the processes are applied. So what types of data we have here? We have production, the values of the production of a specific commodity. For instance, crude oil, how much barrels of crude oil are obtained in a specific field. We can also have values on how many people are working in the production in a specific field. Or we can have values related to the price and all of these, the different components in the production that are being used. And also we can have more data related to the environmental impact. So how many, for instance, if we use the crude oil as an example, they need to reinject water in order to extract all this heavy crude oil that is in the earth. So what's the amount of this water that they are using in order to produce 1 barrel of oil. So all of this information is there, and we can actually get access to all of this data. And that's basically what, there are more information, but that's an example of what we can get from this stage in the production. Then once the companies have the products and sell these products internationally to other companies, or the public companies sell these commodities, they collect money, they pay to the governments, they pay to the different suppliers at the local level, and in the country they are exploiting these resources. So all of this information is also available in government websites, company websites, or even we can find this information getting access by requests, so information requests or so on. All the information in this part is very relevant, and in fact we have international organizations doing a lot of lobbying on the company's side, because they want this industry to become more transparent. So once the companies publish the information from the revenues, and the governments also publish this information, we can have two different sides of this data, and then we can compare and make, for instance, comparison on what if the governments are finally getting the payments that the company says or not. So there is a lot of transparency and corruption topics behind, but that's also data that is available. And also we can also have information here on the spend, what are governments, for instance, spending these revenues. So how the revenues are being allocated in the country. So let's say for people in the local communities, for education, health, or public benefits that benefits to everybody. So education, all of this information is not easy to get access, because normally we have that a lack of information everywhere in this part of the chain. So not many governments are registering what or following what are the main destinations of the revenues, or the money that is becoming into these industries. So basically this is an amplified production chain, if we can call that, or the different stages that we can see in this sector. And why the importance of having data in each state is because we have different activities behind, different people behind. Moving on the second part, which is related to this, why do people even care about this? There are many factors, and I basically highlight some of them. So if we can see here, I highlight economic factors, because of many international organizations identify that around, let's say, 4 billion people living in countries that have these industries as the main activity for their economies, including high-income and low-income countries. So these are really important industries and sources of revenues for many countries. So that's why there's a lot of information that is not available, but the importance of having this information is huge. Then moving on, the second aspects are more related to the environmental and social impacts. As I said, there are lots of environmental concerns once a project is being developed, but also there are other social impacts. So in some cases, we can see in the mining projects that because a mine is going to be built, there are lots of people moving to these places, and then there is a lot of social interaction in there. So social impacts are not only related to the if a community, for instance, has to move from a place where this project is going to be allocated, but also if people is moving to these places and they are also creating new towns, new buildings. So this is also a problem related to the planning of cities, and how these industries are also having impact on migration in some countries. So there are other impacts that are not being considered, but in some cases because there is not information, and in other cases because it's not very relevant, or it's in some cases opaced by the revenues or the importance that people give to having the information of revenues. So these are also sides of these industries that we have to take in account. And then we have why the importance of having this extractive industries data, because of transparency and access to information. These are really good. There are very good studies on this topic, and most of them relate the transparency and the access to information as to improve the quality of governance in countries that have these resources as the main source of income. This has been also recently. I have read some papers on this, and they are basically saying that it is important to have access to all of this data, but it is more important to see the use of this data that people are having at the moment. So if they do advocacy, if they do campaigns to have an impact and change things. So the importance of having the information is obvious, but now we are also talking about on how people use this information in order to have and improve the situation of these different countries and activities. Another reasons that we have here are that these are very specialized industries. So there are lots of activities going on in every project. And we are looking at very specialized topics. So not many people can understand this easily. So having public understanding of this topic could be driven by having more data available and having more people that can explain and use this data in order to have more engagement of people in these very important topics for society. So the importance of having this data is also related to this. That could be a constraint for some people because it's very specialized industries that are not easy to maybe to understand. So having more data could help to reduce these information and understanding asymmetries. Also, there are other reasons to have extractive data, to open extractive data that are related more to education and capacity building programs. This is related to the previous reason as well, because once we have more information on this, there are more academics, more research that can happen on this side, and also more engagement with, for instance, local communities that have no idea of what's going on in their lands or what's going on in their regions regarding the extractive projects. So, for instance, they have no idea how a barrel of crude oil is extracted. So having more information and having people that uses this information to help these people to understand this could be great in order to have a better quality of the extraction of these projects, because we are engaging more people and not only the people that are in the industry itself. And also there is a lot of, nowadays there is a lot of discussion on this topic, that is countries going from macro statistics that we can easily get. For instance, we can easily get what is the production of crude oil in a country. For instance, say Ecuador, Nigeria, Ghana. We can easily go to the World Bank website and get this data. But we cannot get real-time local data that is related to the project's level. So I will talk about this in the next slides. But just to give you a brief introduction, we have the project level data that is basically related to, for instance, let's say that in Ghana there are new discoveries and we want to have an idea of these new oil fields. So we will see more information available at the national level. However, if we want to see information available for this specific project, there is a lack of information because not all the companies publish this information, and not all the governments can have access to this or publish this information at the project level. So, and the importance is that we have a better understanding of what's going on in every region, if we can say that, or every local project, so we can have more solutions like customized for these specific regions. So that's the importance of having more information at the more specific level. So this is really very a general aspects of why this data is important. So the next topic is I have been talking about what is this, why we do care about this, and now what data we're talking about. So I show you in the slides before um, this is the production chain. So now we will see what exact information can we get from these different topics. So in the Extractives projects, we have, as I said, data that is at the national level, so at the country level. That's called macro data. And we can have macro data for any other topics, not only in these extractive industries. We can have macro data for, let's say, aggregated indicators for a country. But we also have micro data that is related to the project level data. In this case, we have here, this is from the Natural Resource Governance Institute that are doing a lot of research on these topics, especially in the what is extractive data ecosystem. So they have identified that in the micro level, we have, for instance, data related to contracts, to licenses, the concessions. So all of these informations are very specific and geographically identified by projects. So that's the importance of having this information. Also, we have here projects, fields, blogs, and all of this information that is very specific for one project. So what we are talking about here is project level data. So we have maps by projects. We can also, there are lots of visualization tools that are not only for micro, that are only for the macro levels, for the country level, that we will see later. And moving to the macro levels, which means the country level, we have, as I said, the data for production of a specific commodity or a specific product. For instance, oil, we can have mining products like gold, copper, silver, any of these minerals. We have revenue data that is basically how, for instance, the government collects or the companies collects by selling this production. We have financial data that are the payments that these companies pay to the governments, the taxes that they pay, are even the, let's say, there is a topic called local content of extractive industries, that is how the companies help the local, for instance, the local communities or the local governments or the local economy itself. So the question behind this is how much are the companies supporting the local economies, and that's what we call local content of the projects. So that information is also here, and it's closely related to this, but itself it's macro because it's aggregated to the companies, but not by let's say by company, for instance, a company in the country, but not the company releasing the information by project. So it's at the country level. We have a lot of country level maps that are available in many international organizations. I will show you some examples later. So all of this information has been, I have here some characteristics of the difference between these two types of information. So the macro level, let's say country level, we have aggregated variables, basically, so the total numbers of a specific topics, as I said. And then we have that these are originated at the government agencies and international databases. So that's mostly where we can find this information. The most common data for this country level are the production of the resources, as I talked before, oil, natural resources, copper, and any other in this category. We have exports and imports. That's also widely available in most of the websites of these international databases or governments. We have also, nowadays there's more information than before on revenues and prices. Prices, there is a lot of information on prices now. And also, most of this is primary data, which is the sources of this information are basically the companies and the governments. Most of this is available in public websites. And then the difference between this and microdata is that in this case, the information is usually geocoded, which means that the geographical location, so we have this by projects, blocks, fields, and concessions. This information is available, however, is not widely published or disseminated by governments. They have obviously this information, but not all of that is available. Then we have that companies also publish data on projects. There are few companies that have a lot of information on this topic, basically mainly because some of the exchange stocks that they disseminate, the information requires them to publish this information. So we can get access, for instance, in the US by the SIC, the SEC. They have information on many various companies and projects related to the extractive industries. And also we have in this case that governments publish maps, contracts, and the list of blocks, fields, and concessions. That's also the case of many governments that have these industries in the country. Also, in some cases, there are contracts that are published. Sometimes they do not match with the projects, or there are a lot of problems when we want to match the contract with the project. So in this topic, there is a lot of issues that we will face, but there is information available. And normally this is not primary data, so there's a lack of official databases in this topic. So as I said, we can go to the companies, to the governments, to NGOs, but none of this has been officialized by any of these sources. So most of this information is not officially, they are not published in official databases, basically. Once we have an idea now of what information we are talking about when we are referring to extractive industries, now we can move to where we can find this. So I didn't want to give you specific websites. I will share with you later. There is a database that you can find these different sources that was published by an international NGO. But for instance, where there is information on the countrywide is that you can go to government agencies that are dedicated to the oil, gas, and mining industries. So let's say the ministries of oil, the ministries of mining, or any of these organizations will have in the websites information regarding these topics. Central banks also have information on this topic, especially if we want to see, for instance, the revenues or the exports and imports of the resources, and even we can see the international payments. So all of this information are normally found in the central banks. There are other international trade offices that we can try. They also have information regarding the exports and imports. And the environmental agencies normally have information related to the environmental impact indicators. So for instance, let's say CO2 emissions from these industries, or even they can have how many oil spills were in a specific project or in a specific field or nationwide, how many oil spills were in 2014, for instance. This information can be available in the environmental agencies. Also, let's say, what's the location of a project, and if this is close to a protected area or a forest that is important for the country. So this information is available in the environmental agencies. In the case of international agencies, I have a few here. So let's, for instance, the World Bank Development Indicators. This is a data set that has information from mostly all the countries in the world, and you will find a lot of information in the energy and extractive sector there. In the case of Latin America and the Caribbean, we have the Inter-American Development Bank. They have also energy indicators, and they have also tools where you can easily visualize the information. The International Monetary Fund has also information in this topic, especially, for instance, you can see the one topic that they manage and publish a lot of information is regarding the subsidies. So a subsidy is what a government pay to, let's say, compensate any person to consume a specific good. In this case, they refer to subsidies to, for instance, oil crude oil products, such as gasoline, diesel, or kerosene. So let's say that the government reduced the price. That is, internationally, let's say that a gallon of diesel is $4, and you can find in your country a gallon of diesel in $2. So there is a gap between the local price and the international price, and in some cases, this difference is covered by the governments. So that's what we call subsidy. This information is available here in the IMF website. We have also information available in the International Energy Agency that is based in Paris. They have this Statistics Energy Atlas, which you can find information around the world, worldwide information on these industries. They have a very good data set that was just released now because of the environmental, the COP, the meeting that is now in Paris. They have been presenting a lot of information. If you can go to the website and they will have this data set available. It's a new open data in the energy sector that is being published these days. And we have this initiative that is called Joint Organizations Data Initiative that has information on hydrocarbons and natural gas for almost all the countries in the world, because they are the international energy agencies from every region. So we have this from the OECD countries. We have OLADE, that is the Latin American Energy Organization. We have APEC, that is the Asian and Pacific Energy Community, I think, or Economic Community. They have information on this, and the International Energy Forum. So all of these regional agencies have joined, and they have this worldwide data set that is publicly available. It's open to anyone, so you can go to their website and dive in this data. And finally, I have some international civil societies that have been working a lot in this topic. We have the international campaign that is called Publish What You Pay. They are basically looking at the companies and the governments publish the information that they receive and that the companies pay to them, in order to have this international movement to have more transparency and reduce corruption in these industries worldwide. We have the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the ITI. They have been working a lot in having information regarding the industries in specific countries, the extractive industries. So let's say the mining, the hydrocarbons, or including crude oil and natural gas. So the information, for instance, on production, on reserves, on the revenues as well. So this is a very international campaign that is doing a lot in terms of transparency and having data available for anyone. Then we have other international organizations from the civil society, like the Natural Resource Governance Institute, that they have been published a lot of information, and they are now working in two projects that are related to the data at the local level, so project data and contracts. So which is really, really good, because there's not a website that still a website that you can find this information worldwide. We have Open Oil, that has a lot of information regarding the oil sector. They have many guidelines. They have toolkits, handbooks that you can find here to understand these topics. They have also, I will show you later some examples that they have been working, maps and also tools to visualize the data. There is Open Contracts also, an international movement that looks to open the information to publish the contracts, and that anybody can get access to this information. Open Corporations is the worldwide data set that you can find information from many companies, and there is also information of companies in the extractive industries, let's say mining, oil, natural gas. All of these companies are in this worldwide database, and it's open, so you can go there and search by name or search by location or country. We have also the International Institute for Sustainable Development. They have this campaign that is the Global Subsidies Initiative. They have a lot of information regarding subsidies, regarding payments and revenues, and you can find this by different regions in the world. So you can find this for Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, North America. So there's information available for almost all the world. Yes, this is some examples of where you can find this information. Finally, I will show you what people has been doing using all of these different sources. For instance, we have that the main uses of this information has been done by obviously the governments, but then we have NGOs, think tanks, consultancy firms, and companies that are using this information, and journalists that use a lot of this information in order to uh, uh, publish stories and improve the information that is available and that you can and put it in an easily way and in a more friendly way that you can visualize this data. So data visualization as a tool to advocate is very important. So because there is a lot of, we can say that in this industry there is a lot of big data. So you have huge amounts of data, but if this is not presented in a very easy way for people to understand, in a friendly way, that will be missed because and we will not share the knowledge with people. There is a lot of uses on this information on maps. So mapping is a huge potential for this data because as we saw before, lots of this data is related to projects, to geolocated in specific provinces, countries, regions. So mapping has a lot of potential here, and that's more widely available everywhere. So you can find a map that looks for the oil project if this is close, let's say, for a forest. So for instance, the Amazon forest. You can find some projects that are very close to the Amazon jungle and then inside the Amazon jungle. So you can see the impact of this. There's a lot of campaigns in the Amazon related to the impacts of extractive industries, and that has been done by maps. Then we have contracts. Contracts are, as I said, they have a lot of information in the contract. That's why the text is important, because you have, as you may be aware, you have different categories of data. You have numbers, you have values, let's say dollars. We have text that can be also used in order to do a lot of work related to data. So here I have some examples of these uses. I have here the maps that I said before. So this is we have the website here. This is mining in Africa, so we can easily find the different like projects by country. So if you go to the website, you click on the country, and you have this information. What minerals are they being extracted in the country? If they are not part of this international extractive industries transparency initiative, if they are part or not. So we have here the information already visualized. So behind this, there's a lot of data, but you can dive in this tool, and you can see more information regarding Africa, for instance, the mining industry in Africa. This is a new website that was launched recently. That's a directory of petroleum and mineral contracts. So once you get in to the website, you, for instance, search by country, let's say Peru or I don't know, Congo, and then you search that, and you will find the countries that have been loaded in this website. They are looking for collaborators, so if you are interested here, just go to the website and you can find the information to contact this project. For instance, journalism. I found this in a journalism organization from Peru. They are called Ojo Público. They have been doing a lot of different stories using lots of information from different sectors. One of these was related to the mining industry and the indigenous communities in Peru. So you here can find the information related to the different indigenous communities, and if they have projects in the areas they are located or not. So that's a really cool visualization. And behind this, there is a story. So you can go to the website, and the information is there. That's in Spanish. So for Spanish speakers, there is an option. Open data maps. As I said, OpenOil has they have a data set available for geolocalization of these projects. So if you go to the website, you can find the database there. They have been doing a lot of work in collecting this information regarding the concessions of Africa in this case. They have also a lot of resources in the website. If you go there, you can easily find them. And also they have lots of guidelines on guiding you what is the oil jargon, for instance. So I have here more resources that you can read regarding the Extractives Data. You can easily go there and have more information if you are interested in this topic. To finalize this, I just wanted to share with you that we are working at School of Data in online modules regarding Extractives Data. So what we have today will be more detailed in these different modules that we are working. So you will have more information there and more the exact links to access to more resources. I think with this I will finish. I don't know if Cedric, you have any questions.
Thank you. It was very clear we don't have any question at the moment, but everyone feel free to drop questions using the Skoda's Kids hashtag, or just pinging at School of Data on Twitter or on Facebook, and we'd be happy to answer them with Julio here. Thank you, Julio, for the awesome presentation. It was really interesting. There was a lot of retweets and likes of the different parts of your presentation that was shared on Twitter. And hopefully we'll have the module soon so we can explore on a text format the subtleties of extractive industry data. Thank you very much. And
awesome. Thank you, Cedric. And yeah, tweet me or follow me on Twitter. Thank you.
Yeah, can you share your Twitter handle?
I will share. It's in the slides, so I will share the slides now, and it's there. So it's at my name is JALP low. What is that called? Underscore and easy. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Julio, and see you soon on another Skillshare, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Cedric, and see you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.